everybody, and
Hello.
welcome
What
to
up?
CLCI Live with Sam this time.
Yay, Sam, nice to see you.
Before we get into our stuff,
What up? What up?
both Sam and Anthony have graduated. Tell us a little bit about what you graduated with, both of you.
Not Sam, not yet.
He's right
Not yet. I got one class
right
left.
there.
Almost
He's
there.
right there.
I'm about to complete my master's in management and leadership from WGU.
Nice.
And I took a very long time to get my bachelor's, which is like apropos to the topic today as well.
Yes.
So before we begin, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment as well. Interact with us. We've been oh so lonely in our lives. We'd like for more interaction with our viewers. Give us some questions, have some comments. Last week, we talked about being human 101, the awkward moments, being awkward and slipping up. We exchanged some fun stories regarding that. This week, we are talking about comparisonitis, why I always feel left behind. Is this a being human 101 topic, Brooke?
Yeah, it is a being
All
human
right.
101 topic. I should have probably put that on there. I'll fix that right
Being
now.
human 101 comparisonitis why do I always feel left behind?
I guess so, yeah.
So the stress of being, feeling like we're not making our timeline or we're behind our peers, things like that. How that has to do with coaches.
Comparisonitis, that is a clinical diagnosis.
It's not a clinical diagnosis.
No, they have a medication for it now, I think.
They don't. It's called alcohol.
It has a variety of side effects.
Cigarettes.
It is, as an itis, it's a definite disease for sure. I think that's what that means.
It's not. It's something made up, and it's something we're talking about because it does show up in our clients and for ourselves as coaches as well. So comparing ourselves to other people, is it generally good or generally bad that we do it?
Well, we tend to go up
I think it
the
just
scale.
generally is.
That's a loaded question, Anthony. Come on.
Yeah,
now.
I know. That's why I'm asking it.
I think it just is what it is. It's a part of a human experience. Comparing in and of itself isn't a bad thing. We compare everything from food to cars to our online purchases. Heck, even coaching certification programs. I'm sure plenty of our students have done that before. So comparing in and of itself, that's just how we do our best to make our best judgment calls of things. But when it becomes bad, it's usually in a space where we're self-loathing or we believe that we inherently suck more than we actually do because someone glitz and glammed their way to stardom and we're just like, what about me?
I feel the same way. I feel like when you're looking at other people and what is being shown and displayed, you are constantly behind and not meeting that standard. Some of that is intentional.
I think, well, yeah, if we're talking in that very specific example, right? We're talking about a specific example, right? In this, like, if we're...
I'm speaking more generally at first. So
Okay.
like when I'm saying that it's intentional, I mean sometimes the websites we're on or the social media we're on deliberately puts in front of us things that we're obviously not, nor probably will ever be due to circumstance. And the implicit sort of thing that's going on is that we're making the comparison that we're not, really.
It feels too ambiguous what you're saying.
Okay, so yeah, we're touching on like you're talking about social comparison in social media. Like I think comparisons is inescapable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like getting into, let's, before we start to like, jump to the middle of everything, let's talk about like what it is or why it is that we do that. What is it in us that does that? Why is this? You've said everybody, the comparison is just a natural thing, in us. Why does that happen?
Well, according to the research, it is for two reasons: self-evaluation and self-improvement.
Mhm.
So we use it as a tool to sort of gauge where we are in our lives, in our existence, right? in our choices and whatever it is we're doing. And there's not a judgment there, right? Right now we're not putting a judgment on that. We're just saying it works for this reason. It's a social construct. It happens for this reason. Now that we've established that, let's talk about why it benefits us. How about that? Because I think we're going to spend most time on why it doesn't. Let's talk about why it might benefit us, or how it might benefit us.
So it benefits us in a way because there are certain milestones that people typically hit in their life. I recently I got done with my degree. Part of that was linguistics, and we did phonetics and phonology, and we were talking about childhood developmental milestones in speech. And there are when you are at a certain age, you should be at a certain level of handling speech and language as a child. And if you're not hitting certain milestones and you're lagging behind your peers as a child and the parent notices it, it could be a sign that there needs to be an intervention. And left alone for too long without having an intervention, the disparity becomes greater and greater to the point where, normal speech interpretation or language acquisition just doesn't occur, and you need stronger and stronger and more serious interventions. So hopefully when you make the comparisons and you see you're lagging behind your peers, or if you're a parent and you see your child's not hitting developmental milestones, you can do something about it. And the earlier you see those signs, the less work you have to do with those interventions. So that's one specific example of, why comparison is a good thing, because the sooner you see that there's a disparity, you can act faster with more information.
That's interesting too, though, because in that case, the child isn't the one doing that comparison, right? It is a third-party source doing the comparison.
And you're only able to make that comparison because you have a greater amount of knowledge. Like a child's not able to make that comparison necessarily because they don't know things about the development of children. They're childs themselves. Go on.
But I think that brings up a valid point, right? Like, I think that yes, absolutely, everything you've said is true. But when we think about that example, it's a third-party source that, yes, is absolutely invested making that comparison, but they have somebody who has a lot more knowledge and a bigger, wider, broader perspective that is capable of making that comparison. And I think in most cases, when we're talking about being human, we are doing the comparing, right? We are doing the comparing, and we are doing the comparing from a very biased place. And so it adjusts the example a little bit. Your example is completely valid, and I think it can absolutely apply in practical situations to us as people, as we, as we're not kids anymore and we're not having parents take care of us, but also something to consider in that example. Sam, it looked like you had something you were.
Yeah, not to make it too ethereal here, just wanted to throw this wrench into it. Anthony brought up you all actually both brought up the idea of comparison benefiting. And I'm thinking along the lines of beneficial as it relates to what? And specifically, how do I put this? How does the metric of benefit change across different cultures? For example, you brought up like speech pathology, Anthony. Having gone to different countries where the development of speech differs from country to country, area to area, I agree with you in the sense where, at least in the West, there are certain milestones that are beneficial to hit if you're going to be a part of that culture. But with others that may be, dare I say, underdeveloped, it's like you're benefiting as it relates to where you're at. And does that apply across all standards and cultures? That's where things get a little gray.
I think that's
so I don't know. What are your thoughts on
I think
that?
there is gray. I think that the Anthony's example was so specific, and it being so specific when it comes to brain development, at least in the things I've read, there is a very definite point in our brain like development where if we haven't developed the ability to speak and communicate, and you get past that point, you will never be able to speak and communicate. So they have in examples of they're called like wild children, so children who are raised essentially by animals and live and survive, and then they find them, you know, as much older, and they were never developed the brain function to communicate or to have language, and they will never be capable of developing language because at that point their brain has passed a certain point, and it's just not possible for them to create those structures and the ability to comprehend and have language. So in that case, it's an oddly specific example because he's a linguistics guy. So
I mean, I tend to think of it as a pretty universal example because
well, yes,
some of the aspects are some of the aspects are not cultural, like they're neurological deficiencies. What I'm speaking of, where if you're not able to make the allophonic processes with your mouth, like from the brain going to your mouth, and you can't generate the sound regardless of culture, the longer that goes without being attended to, the more difficult it is to acquire later.
A weird example, like rolling your R's, the sound. Yeah.
Oh, I still can't do that. I want to learn how to do it.
It's too late, Sam. You're too old.
It's too late. Like it's something you learn.
No. I'm just joking.
You can. But it's going to be so much harder for you because it's not something you developed when you were younger. So it's interesting. And so depending on cultures and language, we're going to sound like the way we speak and the things sometimes will be much easier. And that's why people can move to a new place and they always have a lingering accent, right? Like even though they might change, their speech might change, they might not sound like where they're from or where they live. But that is because at some point they have formed these neurological things where this is how they make this sound. And changing that becomes much more difficult the older you get.
But Sam, I understand the point you were making is that the idea of what progress is and what milestones you should be hitting and timelines are hugely definitely cultural. They're definitely cultural. And in some aspects, in some cultures, I probably have not hit any milestones. Like I have not gotten married and had kids, when I turned 18. Which are definitely some cultural and religious milestones that some people have. And I have chosen not to do that for, my own personal reasons. But when you're within that culture and that's the goal that you want, and let's say you are dead set on certain cultural goals that maybe your family is impressing on you or your peers have hit and you haven't, and you want that can be really, debilitating. It sucks.
I know a couple women that want to be married. They want that, and it just hasn't worked out, and they're lovely people, and it just hasn't worked out for them. And it's definitely something that needles at them, and like, it can be hard comparing yourself to somebody else and being in that situation, wanting what somebody else has, and what you don't.
Especially when, like, your friends, you're going to weddings, every, month or so, every couple of months, and all your peers have reached this certain milestone that you also want, and it just hasn't worked out for you. But I guess personal example for me is like, I moved out a little bit later. I didn't move out when I was 18. I moved out when I was like 25, and I only got my bachelor's degree now rather than back when I was like 22, which is the normal milestone is 4 years in college you get your bachelor's. That was not the case with me.
But to be fair, you've hit other milestones, so like it's again, we can't, everybody's individual. So circling back to the possible
hold on, I want Anthony to know that I also did not do it in that timeline that we're supposed to do it in. I didn't get my bachelor's till I was 27, so similar
Loser.
timelines.
We're both losers.
Anthony. No.
I'm joking. But this can cause.
Well,
I mean, I don't know if you want to jump ship to coaching now. This seems like a ripe
not
area
quite
to
yet.
coach
Like,
people in.
I think we can circle back, because I think I want us to just stay in for at least
In
the
comparison
first bit
land.
of time we haven't finished talking about the benefit here, right?
No.
Like we keep jumping past this point, and we talked about, okay, it can indicate markers, right? But I think the other benefit, and I think that it becomes a way to motivate ourselves, at least initially. I think every one of us at one time or another has been motivated through comparison. Not to say it is the wisest, and not to say it is the best, the most effective, the most fulfilling form of motivation, right? But it absolutely can be a motivator, and that can be a motivator to action and change, which can absolutely be good, right?
Yeah.
Everybody
It could be a good thing.
has felt that way.
It can be inspiration. It can be, for me, a lot of times it's like, oh, I didn't know that was possible. I've never seen anyone living that way or expressing themselves that way or saying it that way or doing it that way. And so I get inspired a lot of times just through comparison.
I know, as a fitness instructor, one of the things that I will every so often talk about my journey and my story, and like what I thought was possible for me and my body, and my physical health, and it's going to make me cry, compared to where I am now, and how, for me, it helps for the ladies who are just starting out, for the ladies who feel like they have a long way to go, who, feel like, oh gosh, I need to lose 50 pounds or 60 pounds. And I can tell them my story, and I've lost 90 pounds. And I have done, because of that, I can now, I do aerial, I can do like all of these things, and it happened over 40, and it happened, and I tell that in the hopes of letting, giving them a form of motivation, you know what I mean? And letting them know. Now, they're not getting the full picture of that struggle and what it went through, and like, the ups, the downs, all the nuances that happen, and that I'm psycho and I will work out 3 or 4 hours a day. And that's probably not what most people will do, because I love it so much. Right. But I do throw it out there in the hopes that, one, they know that, like, I haven't always been like this. I have looked different, and I have been different. So I can understand them if they want to talk to me about what they're going through and what they're thinking, and also to give them a little bit of hope. So I think that's that inspirational comparison kind of can come up.
I think that's, first of all, that's super awesome, Brooke. Going from, I remember back when I first started, and you were talking about going to your fitness classes, and you called it ballerina torture. I never forgot that saying. It's amazing. And just something that I could submit to the group, and just to anybody who's watching this here, comparison can bring inspiration. And it is important to think about where that inspiration stems from, because you can be inspired by the desire to fit in, and also inspired by the perceived consequences of not fitting in. You can be inspired by your own internal drive to look better, feel healthier, and you can be inspired by the consequences of not having that. So yes, and explore.
I think
what's really driving inspiration.
So I think that is a great segue into how comparison can be a trap, how it can be bad for us, how it can be a negative experience, and lead to negative experiences. And that is, I think, where, a lot of we were just talking about social media, right? That's a lot. Just like, I know a lot of people will look at their friends and people they know, like outside of the influencers, right? The influencers are a little one level separation away. and they'll see there are two types of posters on like social media: the ones that are only posting the wins and the ones that are posting all of the bad things that are happening. Like, I feel like that is what you're going to get in social media land. Well, the ones that only post the wins, they don't post the struggles. The ones that post the struggles and nothing else. And we can get stuck in that. Oh my gosh, you know, Sally is got all this happening and it's so good. And you're not, as was mentioned before, but we're only getting a social media post. Like, there's so much we don't know when that happens, right? Thoughts in that space, or thoughts in how it can be negative?
So I can get into a negative example, if that's what you mean. I mean, like, if I were to compare you and I, right? I started working out 2 years ago, and I hate it. I know I have to do it. I think it's important to do. I would like it to have 3 hours worth of impact like it has for you. But overall, I think I have definitely seen an increase of, you know, not athleticism, but compared to where I was, more athleticism. But in comparing you and I, you are you know, if I went down that path, that negative Nelly path, you are here and I'm here. That's kind of not the benefit. I think that helps.
You know, it's funny though, like, it's something that I will say to every one of my clients, like when I'm teaching a class, because I'm teaching a class in a room full of, you know, anywhere from 14 to 20 women, and every one of them has a different body. Every one of them is a different age. Every one of them has a different story, right? And so the one thing I always tell, and like I'm always reminding them, is that every single one of us is built differently. If we all ate and worked out the exact same, we would still all look different, every one of us. Like, that is just part of who we are. And we have different centers of gravity. We have different, so don't ever compare yourself to the person next to you. Compare yourself to yourself. Like, that is the comparison I say that I want in here. Don't compare yourself to the person here, but do compare yourself to the person you were a week ago, a month ago. You know, if you're coming in consistently, you're going to see the growth and the change, and that process will be at everybody's rate of change and growth is going to be different. So that's like the one space where I encourage comparison with my students, is like, hey, compare you to you. And as long as you're being consistent and coming in, and even still, you know, the hardest part, I'm always like, you're here, you've done the work. The hardest part is showing up. The rest of it is up to me. So I just got to lead you, and then you've done it, easy peasy. So, but that's something like to think of, like, right there. That is where it can be dangerous, is now you can't compare yourself to somebody else because they've got a whole different experience. There's a bias that comes up.
But that's part of what our society does. I think most societies do, right? They compare each other to each other. I mean, look at teenagers. That's the most, or middle schoolers. Those are the ones that really have rough experience of that, right? Yeah.
Man, why do they got to make like our most awkward? It's like we're the most awkward. All the hormones are changing. We're stuck in like a.
Oh, bruh. I was the second coming of Steve Urkel.
Like, you know, and
so, I get it, man. You want to talk awkward? You know those like posters that they put up? They say "Don't bully." I was the kid getting bullied, not literally.
I was,
but I looked like him. All right. So, yeah, try bullying me now if you watch those bullies. Yeah, compare me to back then and compare me now. All right.
Should have been here for our last stream, Sam. We talked about awkwardness.
I miss y'all.
It is an awkward thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I know that's a rough time. That is a rough time, and like, yeah, there's a lot of things. So just if you make it through the teenage years, man. um,
But I feel like there's also like a teenage adulthood that doesn't really get acknowledged or talked about. I feel like I'm in it. Like in my 40s, I'm like, this is the awkward stage of adulting. At least for me. Well, I mean, I like it. Don't get me wrong. I like my 40s, but I'm also noticing like I'm like too old to do certain things and like hang with certain people. But then I'm also still like too young for the other side. I'm like kind of in the middle. I don't know where to go and I feel awkward and I'm comparing constantly like to try to figure out like should I kind of go younger? Should I go older? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm in my awkward adulthood, I
I
think.
think for some people that turns into a midlife crisis. I think that's
Yeah.
maybe that's
Yeah,
it.
Jen, so you should
That's exactly
really
right.
just
That's exactly
figure out your midlife crisis.
I already had my midlife crisis, so I made it through. I'm on the other side, and now I'm just to like I just don't care.
Lisa, what was your midlife crisis?
Well, I was thinking of something that
Phil and I
irritates
are like,
me
what's going on?
when I see, people in my age range being told how they should and shouldn't dress. If you're 60 and over, you should not dress this way, or this is how you should dress. I'm like, no way. I'm thinking of swear words. And I don't appreciate somebody thinking a group of somebody's think that they could tell another group of people how they should and shouldn't live.
Honestly, that's all over social media though.
Yeah.
I see it for more than just your age group. I see it for my age group. I see it
Yeah.
all over the place. I see it for different types of people and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
And that's like clickbait because it's like telling someone what to do. Telling someone what to do is going to make someone upset.
It can be
You know what they
it
call
can be
that?
so simple as and I have a friend, she got all into the what color am I? Am I an autumn? Am I a spring? Am I a true summer? Am I a true and she found out she was like the one color spectrum that she hates. She's like she got categorized into the I should be wearing like neon bright colors, and she is like a little traumatized by it. And I'm like, why do you care? Like, just wear whatever. Like, wear what makes you happy.
Right. What is this external source of you should wear this color? Like, where does that even come from?
Like,
I think it's been around for so long, it's almost impossible to track the origins, but people just keep on going with it. It's like at the end of the day, as long as you're not breaking any laws, I won't say the name of the state, but there are some laws where, how do I put it? The lack of clothing, depending on how it began, isn't necessarily criminalized. As long as you're following the law and you're not doing a net harm to society, yourself, like don't walk around with metal spikes in a 12 by 12 room.
Like,
and I think you'll be all right. Like, there's just so much to it. And like, I could go on, but I'm going to just.
I thought about doing that color thing, and then I was like, no, why would I do that? I'm not going to listen to it. I don't care what it says.
And then I'm going to be like no way, I'm not doing it. So one of the things that was brought up in some of our research that I really liked, and I want to touch on before we move on to how this relates to coaching, which we'll be moving into very quickly here, was that by basing our decisions on comparison, we're outsourcing our sense of identity. So like we are outsourcing our self-esteem, we're outsourcing our sense of identity, we're outsourcing our choices and who we are. It's no longer based on who we are and who we want to be, but it becomes inevitably based on an outside source, somebody else, something outside of you as the person. And I loved that point, right? Because it's one of those things where if you don't catch that quick enough, you can start to make all of these decisions that maybe don't line up with your core values and who you are as a human being, and now you're making all of these decisions based on things that aren't really true for you, and that can lead to a lot of misery and unhappiness and loss of identity and a bunch of other things. And so I really thought that was a really important thing to touch on and to mention, is that we want to, and I think this will lead wonderfully into coaching. Ideally, once we get past this point of comparison, but being motivated by comparison, switching to this being motivated by what is true for us and acting with integrity for who we are and our values becomes a much stronger motivator than the more superficial motivator of comparison. Exactly.
Well, the problem is the superficial form of motivation is a lot more prevalent than here. I'll put it this way. How many of us have actually been asked, hey, Anthony, what are your core values outside of a coaching context? Then what are your core values? But how much more often are you asked, why did you choose to wear that? Or why aren't you married yet? Or why didn't you do this? And all of that. It reminds me of something that I studied a little bit before I started grad school. It's known as the Kohlberg stages of moral development. And it shows that a lot of people are stuck in the space of making decisions because they want to fit into the social norm, which is conventional morality, or make decisions to maintain some semblance of law and order. Now, put the law to the side for a second and just focus on order. Most of us don't want to rock the boat. That's why we make these decisions. We look for jobs. We look for partners that may not even be the right fit for us, all in the name of saying, hey, I did the socially acceptable thing. I did what everybody around me expected me to do, yet nobody asked me who I was. So some people end up getting just dumbstruck by the question, hey, what are your core values? Or even, who are you? And I think that lack of conversation happening exacerbates so many of the dissonances we experience.
I mean, honestly, too, I think such a valid and amazing point. And there's even another layer to it is no matter who you are, you have been told who you should be your entire life, right? Like your parents, your teachers, your friends, your family, the people you're around have all been telling you who you should be. But so you're having to peel back all of what I have been told I should be and what I want to be can be a very intensive experience for people. And not something that, as we're going about the day-to-day grind, we give a lot of time and energy to do. It's something that comes up usually when we're laying our heads on our pillows and we've got some kind of cognitive dissonance going on, and then we're trying to figure out why we're unhappy or what's going wrong and all of these things. And it's really not until that you start to have problems a lot of the time that you really start to dive into that deeper exploration of who am I? What do I want? Why am I doing this? Am I making decisions that line up with who I am? Do I even know who I am? Right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And sometimes we don't know who we are. And that's when the positive side of comparisons, when we're learning things about others, it gives us the opportunity to more learn about ourselves as well.
And also sometimes we might figure out who we are and realize, oh, that doesn't align with what society wants. And that can be very scary. It's like, well, am I going to just go ahead and be true to that? Or am I going to try to change to meet societal norms or standards?
Or just go out and start.
And what's the real payout for that anyway?
You know?
I don't know.
I want to go a little bit further too, and I was thinking about this as we were watching White Lotus, Brooke.
I didn't like that this season.
I like it. But you might end up, when you peel back those layers, you might end up finding that you're not like a person. What I mean is like you don't have. There's no bottom to you. There's no true you, except for those shallow like comparisons that you make for yourself. And what I mean is like the dad from White Lotus. Like,
Yeah.
I won't spoil the season, but he ends up finding out, and him and his family, there's like nothing other than these comparisons and these really shallow things. And when you peel away the wet layers, there's not a person. And I think part of discovering your true self is going from a childhood to an adult and building those things. But sometimes that process gets interrupted because you're caught in these comparison traps, and your entire life from your peers and your family and what's expected of you has only been comparisons and trying to get to that point. And then you might end up with a really horrible case of midlife crisis where you figure out
Who am I? What
there's
am I?
nothing else like going on under there, and I've wasted a whole bunch of time not building the real me. So that might be a kind of coach. That might be a kind of client you encounter, and I don't know
Well,
how to address that.
I don't think it's. I think one of the big
People
points.
don't watch this
We
and
don't.
get a quarter life crisis.
Everybody is a person, right? Like we're all people. Like so like you're gonna peel away the layers, and yes, what you're gonna find is that that person has been being motivated by superficial motivation, and the superficial motivation isn't fulfilling them, right? And so then eventually what's going to happen is they're going to have something happen that we call it like in writing we call it an inciting incident, right? Something happens that makes them go, ooh, I don't like this, I want to change this. And that's where you start to go, okay, fine, this isn't working for me, this superficial comparison isn't working for me. What is going to work for me? What do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Etc. And that's when you start to build that more deep and meaningful decision-making process and motivation, which is kind of what we talked about. You know what's funny in all of this too, Anthony? They were sharing, I recently had to take a D&D alignment test, which is funny, where you find out if you are
when did you have to recently do
they had
that?
me do it for the show I'm in.
Okay, that's fun.
They had us do it, and then for us, and then our characters, so we would know how our characters were. And like you go for it was kind of to what Sam brought up. Like there are people who are lawful, there are people who are neutral, there are people who are chaotic, and like you take
Evil.
it kind of figure out where you are. And when you were talking, Sam, I was like, oh, that's funny. Like it brings me up because I tend to be a true neutral, which means that whereas a lawful person is very motivated by law and following law and everything, but I am a person who's motivated by what is right and wrong for me. And that can absolutely fall outside of societal norm, because I am now motivated by what is right and wrong for me and who I am. And because I am the one person who has to live with myself at the end of the day. Moving into coaching now, let's talk about coaching and how this comes up for our clients. And also thank you, Wildlight Arts. You've been so amazing and interactive. We haven't been able to respond to everything you've said, but thank you. I just wanted to shout out. Let's talk about this and how it comes up for us. Do we want to start with for coaches or clients?
Clients.
Okay, how does it come up for our clients?
I think the comparisons are probably one of the driving factors why people seek out coaches in the first place, and the reason why people have goals. They have a goal. They see that they're comparing themselves ideally with where they are now, with where they want to be in the future. That would be like an ideal situation in a very sterile coaching environment. You know, there's a gap where you want to be. Let's coach and we'll bridge that gap so that your future you can now be, you know, who you want it to be. Cool. But a lot of times, you know, the comparison comes from the outside. They're comparing themselves to what they think things ought to be. Maybe when it's not in their best interest or aligned with their own values. Sometimes it's because of their spouse or their parents or the job. The comparisons might not be internally sourced. They might be externally sourced, but that's probably a very good reason why people go to coaching in the first place.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I've seen this so many times with clients, even even outside of a one-on-one coaching space in the other spaces that I serve in, there's a lot of thought around, I want this thing. And it gets to the point where either explicitly or implicitly, I'll ask the question, how much do you want this? Or I'll even ask, how much do you want this? Because oftentimes there is this idea that says like, this is the thing that I want, but I don't really want it, but I'm going to say I want it. And hopefully nobody catches that. So I'm like, how much do you want this versus how much do you want this? And obviously, like as coaches, we're not asking like, hey, where's that want coming from? That's a very gray question. We don't want to tiptoe the line of being something that we're not. At the same time, just to bottom line this whole thing, there is a crossroads. It's like my life's not fulfilled. I don't have the career, the finances, the relationship that I want, asterisk. I didn't even say that right, but you know what I'm saying? It's just, we have this goal, we have this thing, and then as we progress in coaching, we start getting to the thing beneath the thing, to the point where they realize maybe it's not about getting the promotion per se, which is why they came into coaching originally, but finding some semblance of security in their careers, which may later manifest into something totally different. No promotion, no fancy title, but in essence, clients return to, or maybe even develop for the first time, a them that's real, a them that they hold on to even if society doesn't understand it, agree with it, because they have to realize that once they start getting off of the conventional idea of success, society's going to push back. Society's going to have something to say. Do you progress through that? By yourself, it might be tough, but with the coach, you might find that ability to take ownership of your stuff in a way you never thought you could.
Yeah, 100% agree. With society, though, it tends to be a bit of an abstract construct in coaching. When people get the pushback, though, it's like from specific people in their lives, or themselves.
So
Yeah,
go ahead. Well, like, I just have like a tangible example. Like I had a client that was a mom, and she's in a mom group, and she was like comparing herself to every mom in the mom group. You know what I mean? And like that's all the moms, this mom threw a crazy Harry Potter party, and she puts all of this work and all of this time and does all of this, and I'm failing as a mother because I'm exhausted just feeding my kids, getting them to school, and doing, you know what I mean? That became like a big discussion around, okay, let's talk about, let's peel this back. You know what I mean?
Well, what could you do to be a better mom then?
No, Anthony.
So we go deeper into the client and figure out the motivations why they feel that way.
I'm sorry. I just had a visceral reaction to the term better this, better that. What does that even mean? Do you have any, like, I've been married for less than 3 years. Do you know how many times I've unnecessarily kicked myself in the face because I feel like I was a better husband? I want to be a better husband. What the frick does that even mean?
Well,
hey, coaches,
Sam,
ask your clients, what does a better this and that even mean? So the abstract idea of society gets a little more specific. And then what ends up happening, man, I sound really snarky, but like I said, this has activated something in me. But what ends up happening is this abstract idea of society and them and this and that turns this into something so specific, they can make an informed decision on whether they want to continue to follow it or kick it the frick out their lives. Like, that's... Ask the question of what does better mean. I can't stress that enough.
Because if it's too general, you might end up with the situation, Sam, where you're like, well, to be a better husband, I got to throw more Harry Potter birthday parties for my wife.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I gotta grow a beard. Oh, I gotta do better at woodworking. I don't know. There's just so much, and it's stressful as heck.
So being specific with the goals, that helps reduce the comparison traps a little bit. Like, what actually do you want to improve? What thing would bridge this gap?
I think also
There's
listening
one way to go about it, but yeah,
listening for that comparison, that moment, that comparison, and maybe they're not saying right away, that they're comparing themselves to, so and so, but what they're saying is, I don't feel good enough. I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I feel like I am failing. I feel like, and so then listening to that and asking around, okay, what is making you feel that way? Where is that coming from?
And it's the ability to hear that other person's story and not try to rush. A lot of new coaches try to rush the situation to salve it and fix it and have an end result, versus just hear what the client is saying and take it to the client's pace, not your pace, on how you think you should be going with the session. And when you're hearing what that client's saying, you'll gather the tools to be able to reflect it back and show them in a different mirroring way how they are doing things differently. And it's not the same as what they're comparing to. I know. I got lots of packages of here.
Oh. Wondering where that came from.
So it's meant to hear them in a way that they can feel that they matter when you reflect it back, that they have you have empathy, and that they've got to have empathy for themselves as well. I think that's where I'm going with this. Anyway, go ahead.
The other thing that will come up with it becomes a comparison, and sometimes it's a little more ethereal, sometimes it's more specific, is they will, and it is a comparison. I don't feel like I'm progressing fast enough. I don't feel like this is happening quick enough.
I'm guilty.
And there's a comparison happening there. That's a subtle comparison, because, okay, what is fast enough? Like, where is this timeline coming from? Talk to me. You know what I mean? What's happening here?
My nose. I want to twinkle my nose and have it be.
This is where I bring up the analogy that Hot Pockets are made in seconds and calzones are made in minutes. No, I'm just kidding. I don't actually say that in coaching, but I do use it for myself. Listen, I'll enjoy a Hot Pocket if the option's there, but the calzone, y'all, come on. I'm going to go for a calzone.
Now I want a calzone.
Period. Anyway, yeah, to that point, Brooke, what the timeline in and of itself, like, I'm not doing this fast enough. And that's when I'm like, I'll ask the question, what does fast enough actually mean? Or if I really want to break it down, I'm hearing fast and enough. Which one of those do you want to explore first? It's like, how fast do you have to move before it is fast enough?
And that's a great subtle question that you're bringing up. You're bringing up points of view of what they just shared with you. That's another piece that a lot of times new coaches will miss, is that that client is saying several things in that short statement, and to pay attention to that. Yeah.
Who you think I learned that from?
Yeah, I also think
not you, the viewer, you, the Lisa.
I've learned that from quite a few, but Lisa, I've seen you exemplify that so many times, and I'm thankful.
I also think the question Wildlight Arts brought it up. What does that mean to you, or variations of it? Like, what is the meaning that you give that what do you make that mean? There's lots of ways to ask that question to at least, highlight is like, well, so and so does it faster, or I think I should have it because they have it. It's like, what's the meaning there that you're giving to that they have that? Like, and then usually what that does is it kind of exposes that there is an assumption. Usually the client notices that they have ownership of whatever it is then the meaning is that they're giving it. And so I like that a lot, asking into the meaning.
Now, what about coaches, though? We're winding down on time.
Yeah, we're winding down on time. Anthony, you are out of focus. What happened?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and Anthony, you are
You got really blurry.
There we go.
you are fading.
To be clear, you're asking how does comparison affect coaches? Like,
Yep.
what's the okay?
What do we see as coaches typically as far as comparison?
Well, I mean, I think all of the things that come up with
behind.
clients. There was one point. Hi, it's Leela? Yes, hello. There was one thing that sort of comes up for me as a red flag in the coaching industry, and you will have coaches that are out there selling their accomplishments as I started 5 successful businesses. I make 8 figures a year. I am going to teach you how to do this. And they are selling, that is baseline selling comparison. That coach right there.
There's one more layer. They're doing this on social media and telling you don't have to use social media. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, that drives me crazy.
Oh my gosh.
But they're selling you their accomplishments, which right in and itself is a huge red flag, because they are telling you to pick them by comparing your life to their life. Your life is not like my life. You have not successfully done the things I have successfully done. You are not making the kind of money I am making. I will teach you how to do that. But that is not coaching. That is period. If they are saying they are going to teach you anything, they are not coaching you. They are not, period. So that is just complete red flag, red alert. They are using comparison to make you feel inferior, to motivate you negative. You turn on that negative, I don't like myself buttons. They're manipulating you into their products and services. And so, period, don't do it. Sorry.
It's actually funny you bring that up, Brooke. Just today, the ICF posted something on Facebook asking, when looking to hire a coach, what are you looking for? I'm sure that there have been many more answers since I've seen it, but a few of those answers alluded to experience. Now, I agree with you. Selling yourself in such a way where it makes somebody feel inferior, and to be fair, there is a delicate dance between what someone is communicating and what somebody is interpreting through a message, which is a whole nother conversation. With that being said, I agree with you. Don't try to oversell yourself and say, you can have my life if you work with me for the low price of $10,000. That's gross, disgusting. At the same time, for those clients that do value their coach having experience in the field that it is, I'd say it's fair. Just don't over-aggrandize it. That's right within the ICF code core competencies, demonstrating ethical practice, putting out there what your experiences, your education, your level of credentials are accurately, so that clients and relevant stakeholders can make the right decision. So to make a long story short, don't do icky predatory selling that makes people feel like crap, and ethically put yourself out there and make it about them.
And to share how the change in voice would shift in a way that isn't red flag manipulation would be, if I am a coach, I'll say I'm selling coaching in like a movement and Pilates field. Okay. So my experience, I have personally lost weight. I have personally become very active into health, into nutrition, but what I am not going to do as a coach is sell you my 5-step program to get you to where I am. What I am going to say is that I can speak in those spaces to you in a way that you will understand because of my personal experience, right? I can probably connect with, like Jen and I both very into like health and nutrition and body acceptance type coaching. I know that Jen and I can speak a language very easily because we have relatable experience and life experience. And there are reasons I chose to coach on my body with Jen, because I knew Jen would be able to understand where I was coming from, would know who I am and have empathy for who I am in my experience. And I felt comfortable. And so that was why I picked her. Yes, she has had similar life experience, and I respect that. And I respect that to the nth degree, but she's going to lead with, I am coaching you. This is my experience. This is how my experience will help enrich the coaching process, and not, I am going to teach you. I am going to show you all of those kind of things. Yeah. So that's the difference there, right? We choose, yes, we're going to choose probably a coach that has experience in the realms we are coaching, but without the expectation that that coach is going to give us our solutions and hand us the recipe book, essentially. Because life is not baking, you guys.
It's not baking.
Yeah,
And
anyone
it's your
who's
baker.
Ought to be.
anyone who's trying to tell you that they have the framework to success is not a coach according to ICF and their standards. It's something else.
They're selling you something.
And that's something else might work great for a specific group of people. It might work great for, but just know that what it is and what it isn't, right? That's sort of what we're mentioning here. And be aware of how people can use comparison to manipulate you. And that's what Sam mentioned earlier about exploring those deeper motivations, exploring the why is this getting to me? Why am I wanting to do this? Why am I choosing to do this? What is this? Where is this coming from internally? Having that internal moment before you go out and shell out $10,000 to somebody that's going to solve all your problems. Like, explore because there's a lot of people who've spent a lot of money and did not end up having the same experience that the person that said that they were, it worked for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you, if that makes sense. Yeah. If you hire, so a coach isn't going to grow your business. That's if we're talking about ICF coaching, then it is different. That a coach isn't going to grow your business. Now, a coach can come into your business and coach people in your business so that it functions better and the business does better. But they're still coming in and coaching people and working in a coaching framework. And with the understanding, we've got sponsors and things at that point.
If you want to grow your business, you should hire either consultants or
it's going to be
employees. If you want to grow as a business owner, then hire a coach.
Yes, exactly.
Beautiful distinction.
Mic drop. That's my final thought.
So just be aware, somebody who's calling themselves a business coach or marketing coach, a lot of times they're not offering coaching. They're offering consulting is what they're doing, and calling it coaching because coaching is a highly searched and buzzword type thing. So that's why they was like, I'm going to stamp, boom. Coach sounds way cooler than consultant. Essentially.
I mean,
it doesn't necessarily, but to that person.
Depends who you're talking to. I'm like,
exactly. So
So
that's all. I'm done. I'm off my soapbox. I'm done for the rest of the live. It's all up to you guys.
Well, good, because the live's done. We're at the end.
I just saw the time and I'm like, oh shoot, I have to go.
Okay. Anybody else? Final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I think
we've said everything that needs to be said.
I think so too. All right, then we'll see you guys next Tuesday. We'll have another topic on being human 101. And if you want to compare yourselves to other coaches and find that you are the superior coach, take coaching 101 and 102.
Bruh, I knew he was gonna say something.
Actually,
I knew you were gonna say something.
I'll be honest though, I did do some comparison in class. I'm not gonna lie, but it was healthy, right?
No,
I
I
was
meant-
trying to figure out where I was in the pack.
I meant to coaches who haven't taken coaching 101 and 102.
Yes, I know.
Even the ICF disagrees with that.
I'm just saying in class, like as I'm coaching and as I'm listening to other coaches, I'm kind of assessing, like, am I okay? Am I good? Am I bad?
And I get that, and that's like the healthy comparison we were
Right.
talking.
Yeah,
Like, how do
if
you
you
not-
want to healthily compare yourself and be pleasantly surprised at your findings, take coaching 101 and 102.
Yes,
All
yes.
right.
Get all what you need and none of what you don't in 3-day online intensive courses, y'all.
Wildlight Arts, how do we get past the negative jokes people make about coaching? I beat them up.
I think that could be a live topic for another
Yeah, I
time.
think that is
We
a
can
great
do a whole
topic.
live on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do that, guys. Let's make that a topic.
Yeah,
Thank you,
actually, that's a great
Wildlight
topic.
Mhm.
Violence is sanctioned.
No,
all right.
it is not.
It's not sanctioned. All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace out.
Take care.